dinner. So
nice. Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. We get Sheila Holm back with us once again. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the world and maybe a little biblical light versus dark, because we like that kind of information. Sheila's really well informed about that. So, Sheila, it's great to have you back again. Thanks a lot.
it's so exciting because we haven't been together since May 17 when I went to DC, have we? And then I went to the First Nations. We haven't been on about any of this, have we?
No, I usually do like 1 or 2 a month, but I think we skipped a month. Skipped
okay.
a month. Yep.
Well, I got a lot of exciting news for you. Did you know I did a 10-page letter to the president before the rededication? He was going to rededicate it to the King James landing. And King James paid for 3 ships to land in Virginia. But he did that after he stole all the land and the assets and the money from the Pilgrims. And then he jailed them 3 times when he took the information from the captains and let the captains keep the money from the Pilgrims. And so he had all the information. He had everything. But they'd already burned their pastor at the stake. Because what people don't understand is if you're not part of this Gentile pagan worship structure church, you're not safe. You're not, because the societies take oaths to those same dead gods that the pagans and Gentiles worship. I mean, Nimrod, the great grandson of Noah, was deified in Egypt as Osiris, the Osiris that all these obelisks are about. I mean, if we knew the truth, but King James knew the truth. And he came and he burned down some Native American stuff to start British settlements. And people said, oh no, he came in 1607 and it was before the Pilgrims and they wanted to evangelize in America and other nations. The Native Americans are the tribes of Israel. They don't need evangelizing. The Pilgrims didn't need evangelizing. So that's not why he was doing this, guys. He already knew everything. He already stole from them. He already jailed them 3 times. And so I had to send a letter in because they were going to honor the 1607 landing. And right now it could still be on the website of the White House. There's 17 proclamations on the White House website that they are Paula White has put together and asking us to pray about. The very first one is the 1607 landing. And guess what number 17 is? George W. Bush's 9/11 prayer. And we know who George Bush was regarding 9/11 because his name wasn't even Bush. And so I had to do it. So I did a 10-page letter. And guess what? Within 24 hours, they canceled their hotel rooms and they were still trying to cancel their flights within 24 hours of that letter getting to the president. And I just love this. When we talked about Rome, Georgia, and I told you guys about that Secret Service agent that helped me and everything, and I knew him, and he said, well, I'm not just in DC, I'm in Mar-a-Lago. And I said, I think I know you more from Mar-a-Lago. And he said, well, I go back and forth with him. And I said, but I never knew your name. And he said, it's easy. It's Swan with an extra N. And so who signs for my 10-page letter when I pay to overnight it to the president because I was that concerned about the rededication? Swan with an extra N. You know what I mean? Wow. You can't make this stuff up. And I mean, it's just crazy. What a gift. And that was 9:15 in the morning. And by noon, I got a phone call from someone on the Branson Project. And I don't know, I don't think we've even talked about that project. There's a new Branson Project. There's going to be thousands of acres. And the owner of this project, and then I'm going to tell you what the project is, it keys around the Faith Monument. And that's why they want me involved as content coordination, et cetera. So we're talking because I said, sir, you've been talking about this. So what would it take? And he said, well, I got a major business. I need to sell it. And my next business, I got to sell that. And then with all that done, then I need the right paperwork to order to sign for finalizing on the land. I said, okay, then that's the prayer. We thank you, Father, for these 3 things coming into position, because everybody talks about stuff and they know there's stuff that isn't finished yet to make the stuff happen. And so I said, let's do that. Guess what happened? 1 week after, his first business sold. Within the next week, the next business sold. And while we were where we were just a few days ago, the land all got finalized, and now he's got all that paperwork signed. All of that happened in a matter of 3 weeks, all in the order of the 3 he gave them to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Very nice.
So those people called me, and they're the ones that said, you're not going to believe it. We just heard from these 1607 people who want to be part of our Branson project. And we said, no, we're going to stay with the Pilgrims and the Faith Monument, et cetera, et cetera. And they were furious because something had happened, and now they feel they've been shunned and disinvited because they're not going to be on the platform with the president. Well, the president wasn't on the platform either. And so anyway, within less than 3 hours, by noon on that Friday, they were ending their plans, and they had plans for 8 weeks to be there with 10 people.
Wow, man, good stop. So
it's just exciting days, and I've missed you guys. And we only got to see each other for seconds in Vegas. It was like everybody was swarming us while we were there. If you get up for a moment, then you're going to take 10,000 pictures, which is good. I like to take the pictures, and here we are. Well, I've got to say something about this one, Jaco, because this is someone that I've known for a long time in Reawaken. And it was so funny. She goes, oh my God, you guys come on over here. We found Sheila. And then they go, oh, wait a minute, there's Jaco. And everybody rushed over to Jaco. And I stand there by myself, and he goes, Sheila, you can come over and join the picture if you want to. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll come over. I'll join the picture. But anyway. The good news is I got the same hug from Jaco that they got. So that's the good news.
Yeah, that was a good time. So what were your takeaways from that event, the Fraud Fighter Summit?
I think Pete Santilli's on fire. I thought that was spectacular. Mm-hmm. In fact, there is a picture of Trennis Evans on fire. I'd sent that to Stacy during the event. Have you seen it? Because I can see if I can load it up and bring it up. So Trennis Evans is speaking, and he's holding the microphone, and somebody, I don't know if they did Photoshop or something, and there's this huge plume of flames in front of him. But I haven't seen him as excited and confident. And on top of it, I told him it was just so spectacular. So he had me come in the green room. Next thing you know, this guy's putting a camera in my face. I said, who's this? And I'm sure the same thing happened to you. And he said, well, I'm Real America's Voice in Vegas. I'm their camera person. And so I'm here to help Trennis get the interviews done. So I met the premier, or was it the prime minister or former prime minister that was just put through a horrific election in Seoul, Korea. And and I didn't know that was his wife. She leaned into me and started talking to me, but didn't speak much English. And so a gentleman came over, and I said, are you the translator? And he started laughing, and he handed me his card. He said, no, I'm their attorney. And he said, I'm here to help them. So they're interested in what we were talking about. So I have to get information to him. And then Trennis just kept interviewing me, and then boom, Pete Santilli. Now, Pete Santilli is so on fire about all of this. Now, here's the funny part. Pete Santilli said, you seem familiar. I said, sir, we go all the way back to before Ruby Ridge. We went all the way back to Bundy. And he went, we go back to Bundy? I said, we were on National Republic Radio out of Texas at the same time. We were on interviews together. But you didn't know me. But I'd already heard about you, and he was so famous about the Bundy case, right? And so he said, well, what was your part in all of that? And I said, because of putting some judges away in San Diego. And he goes, all this is sounding familiar. And I said, Pete, there have been 5 times in the past decade you were going to interview me. And it's okay. We just haven't done it yet. And he goes, give me your phone. You know what I mean? So there was so much more depth to this. And Juan said, what did you think of the whole thing? And I said, it was depth. Then I noticed there were some contradictory things. There were speakers who have personal information, but they haven't come together with other people to find out how it relates to other things. And so they were saying it from a personal perspective, and it didn't quite match what is actually going on. And so I said, so there were some of those contradictions. And he said, I think you'll always have that between people, and it's good to sift things out. And I said, but the audience is beyond this. The audience, didn't you find that the audience is just gung-ho, ready to go, ready to get things done, on fire?
And it was, I think once they were looking at maybe 500. I think they had 800 people there.
Yeah. Well, it was over 700 before they ran out of hotel rooms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was great. It was great people, and yeah, the speakers were like over the top, and you know, we're seeing that the fraud is not just in one area; it's in, and they're using it the same throughout everything, through the bond fraud, the school bond fraud, the election fraud, and then the fraud with the big pharma. So they're all connected. They're using the same programs, using the same manipulations, everything. It's crazy.
Well, and everything's the same on the elections.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie was about Bolsonaro, and the people from Seoul, South Korea were there because they just flipped their election.
They did the same thing to them. Yeah.
Identical.
Yep.
Identical. So
I'm talked about 71 countries around the world that got that have been compromised. Yeah. So
well, and how many were involved in our election? Wasn't it something like the similar number? But maybe the guys flipping in all these different nations are the same guys that are flipping theirs and flipping ours. Because I thought there was a figure of 71, 72 that were involved in our elections. Do you remember? I don't
know if it was that many, but there were definitely quite a few that were involved. They've been exposed. And then, of course, the election machines have been exposed. And I guess Mike Lindell, they just, Dominion voting machines just dropped their $1.5 billion, suit against him. So that's a big tell.
Exactly. But do they have to pay his attorneys after putting him through this, or how does that work?
Yeah, I know, right? so that would have to be a countersuit.
Yeah.
And I guess, Fox News, they paid out. So whoever paid out is like, or did they pay out? Or was it some kind of agreement where we'll say that you paid out so that we can continue this facade of, going after people and trying to get money from them? I don't know.
Wow. Wow. Well, that whole rededication thing was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And then I went right from the rededication and I went over to First Nations. And First Nations was in Kansas, and I grew up in Nebraska, and right by the Missouri River. I'm up in the northeast corner in Missouri River area of Nebraska, and it forms the formation of the state line across the top and down. And so here we were, and I did not know there was a Kansas River. So where they gathered was exactly the convergence, because they want unity. They want reconciliation and unity. And so the Kansas River meets the Missouri River right at that point called Kaw, K-A-W point. And that Kaw point is representative of the convergence of those two rivers together. Because once they merge into, you can't, and they showed us, I mean, we went and looked at it, and it's not like other waters in the world where one stays one color and one is different. It's a complete convergence. You cannot tell the difference between which river is which river when you're looking out over the river. It was just flat out amazing. And people were invited from all over. We even had Inuits from up at the Arctic Circle who came. That's the first time they ever came. But it was such a powerful, powerful thing. And they shared this most amazing prayer, and it's called A Power to Forgive. And what's really even more amazing about it, and that's what I'm sending to the president this week, is that they were doing this in February and October. They gathered as a huge group, went to DC, and prayed this over our nation 2 times in 2016 because that election was so critical. And so they understood it, they knew it, and et cetera. And what's really powerful about it is that it explains how what they went through was so horrific, but that's centuries ago, a couple of centuries ago. But they had already been here for hundreds of centuries. You know what I mean? So they'd been here since 612 BC. And then in 1804, they started being forced out of their homes and off of their land, and nobody would stand with them and nobody would unite together. And so what they did in this prayer is, we've got to remove those atrocities that have happened. And we have the power to forgive. And we're here to forgive, seek reconciliation and unification, even for those who were unwilling or unable to be here to do it. Because they wanted to clear the slate, because They knew it was going to be a major, major time in our country because they've watched all of this. You know, they've seen it from a deeper perspective, because we were all like, oh my God, did you see what happened in 2008? And some of the people lost their homes, and now they're losing their farmland, and you know, and it was just pieces of people around the country. These guys were all disembarked from absolutely everything. And there's never been total forgiveness. So that power, power to forgive, I don't know if we can bring up that prayer. That was so, so powerful. And this is a woman, she spoke it in her native language and then provided it to me in English. And as I was leaving, she said, "You are not leaving without a picture." And I see, Jaco, you weren't there. So otherwise you would have been, you know, she would have run to the other side of the parking lot to see you. But because I was leaving, she said, "You can't leave without us getting a picture." And then she gave me a copy of this spectacular prayer.
Wow, that's beautiful. And you know, I see in the chat, and we've seen it in a lot of shows where people are pretty angry about our country being taken over. But the anger, guys, will never serve us. The prayer and, you know, working within a system to take down evil is more effective in the long haul. But yes, there is unfortunately possibility that things have to go kinetic. But at this point, they don't. We still have the power to, you know, through prayer, through actions and so forth, we, the people, getting involved. That's been the biggest problem, I think. People just haven't been getting involved. And I know a lot of people say, well, what do I do? It's like, what do you do? Are you kidding me? You become active. You become an activist. You start to march. You start to gather with people, and you start to, you know, talk on social media and share and do those types of things, as you and I, Sheila, have been, you know, demonstrating. It has done incredible work to take down a lot of stuff out there that was false. Like you were just talking about, they're going to have, you know, this group come in there that was, are you kidding me? So you called it out and stopped something that was going to be, I think, very negative. So it does make a difference when you get involved, but only if you get involved. If you watch and bitch and complain and don't do anything, it serves nothing. It's just a negative energy that spins out there with other negative energies and keeps all this stuff from actually transpiring on a positive level.
Well, I don't know if I can make this larger, but I can pull up a copy and go over some of this if you want to, because what's so interesting is it matches us. They did it to them. They've done it to races. They've done it to generations. They've done it to, and they're always doing it to believers, because they got to get rid of the believers because they don't want the truth. And like they said, they didn't just kill Christ; they killed truth. They didn't want truth on this land. They didn't want anybody knowing. And that's why they moved the Native Americans on the other side of the Mississippi. So when people said during those eclipses, and even General Flynn called a week before and said, "So Sheila, isn't Mississippi going to split?" And I said, "No, sir, it's not going to split." I said, the split on the Mississippi in this nation was when they sent all of the Native Americans to the other side of the Mississippi. That was a split in this country. That it's not going to be split of the river. So what the people are hearing, because a lot of people have been saying words without understanding the depth of what they've got. And a lot of people are saying words as though they're prophetic, and they might be, but they might be for you. They might not be for putting it out on the internet. You know, but I had the most miraculous thing happen today. Yesterday, Juan came out with an interview, and the interview was about a crazy thing happening about Jaco and Sheila Holm, where somebody is sending all of our interview clip pictures and saying, you know, that Sheila's got this top information and it's going to shake you to your core. And, you know, and the guy's fake. The guy's the same. I think he's the same guy that we never talked about. And then it's us in a video, and we're not clear in the video, and it's like that's that. I guess in some way that's how they can get away with it. But you can call them out. I guess you did. I've tried to call them out in the past, and I get my channels taken down for calling them out. So it's like, oh well, I'll help you with my IP attorney. We took down that Rumble channel, and I think this is the same guy. It's the same Bubble. a filter kind of thing over our faces on our interviews.
Yep.
And it's the same horrible audio transfer. So I think it's a guy that doesn't totally understand technology. He's just looking for clicks. But so the woman on the
they look for clicks is because they advertise something. A lot of times it's advertising for you to get involved with some kind of financial scam. And I know I've been saying it over and over again. We used to have to say this in the past, like 5-6 years ago. We used to talk about this a lot. It's coming back again. So I've been warning people about it, and I just had somebody say they just got scammed. There's no reason to get scammed if you're listening, guys. So we're not going to like try and come to you and say, hey, invest in this, or send your money to me and I'll put it in some kind of account for you. No. We're going to do that.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. So they were asking Juan about this question. And so Juan's answer was, well, Sheila's coming to DC and she's coming to a dinner that, he's talking about this dinner thing and everything else. So I sent, people were sending messages going, isn't this your third dinner you're scheduling with Juan? What's going on with you and Juan? And it was just kind of funny because it's all because we have to get where we need to get to, and we're not quite there yet. And sometimes you can't just do it by phone, or you've got to meet in person and get some things done. And that's what's going to happen. And so that's what I said. So then I answered, and I don't know if I don't think I've ever shared what happened the night when I met him, but the night when I met him, I said, sir, I'd like to take you to a cup of coffee, maybe give you a book. I just want to thank you because I had that heavy radiation hit. And he knew somebody from 3 Mile Island that had the specialist background that could help me get the radiation out of me. And so I was just so grateful because I could already tell a difference. I mean, just one appointment and I could already tell a difference. So I was so excited. And he said, well, you're 5 minutes from the Trump. I'm 20 minutes from the Trump. So why don't we just meet at the Trump? And so I go to the Trump, and I'm new to Vegas, okay? And my car's in Albuquerque in the shop. So he only knows that car. He doesn't know where I am or what I'm in. And so I try to get over, and the taxi blocks the Trump entrance. And there's only one entrance. The very next one is an exit. You go in or you go out. I don't know. And so I missed that one. So I got to go downtown and do the U-turn. I come back and it's Desert Inn Road or whatever. And there's a construction exit. And the GPS on this rental vehicle took me on the construction exit. And I had to turn back around, go back downtown, do the U-turn again. So the joke was, once finally called me and he goes, so where are you? And I said, well, I'm almost there finally. And he goes, so what happened? And I said, well, I'm a high-speed mountain rally driver in California. I could do better on maps. And he goes, well, that wasn't in your bio. And I'm like, how'd you know about my bio? You know what I mean? Not thinking they have to vet you before they can meet you. And he said, at least you're going to be here soon. And I said, yep. And I said, but I'm not going to know how to find you. And he said, well, why don't you just look out the passenger window? I'm like, look out the passenger window? And so I said it like 3 times. And he goes, please just turn and look out the passenger window. Because I'd never seen him in person. You know what I mean? So I didn't know who I was looking for. so there he was. So what happened is I ended up, to tell you the story that happened today about us, because this woman is watching our interview tonight, is that because she couldn't believe that I knew you in person. And so I was telling her that I need the wine, because what happened is at the Trump, I'd never been to dinner at the Trump, by 22. And so one said, well, you want a glass of wine? And I said, well, that would be nice. I don't know if they serve Kendall Jackson. I'm from California and we all drink Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. And we've got our own KJ Club. And he was laughing about all of it, right? And I thought, well, it is a silly kind of thing, I guess. And so then the waiter says, well, ma'am, I can't help you with that. And I said, well, that's fine. I'm like this on water. I really don't need wine. So I'm really okay. And Juan goes, well, why don't you tell her what kind of wine you serve at the Trump? And he said, ma'am, we only serve Trump wine. I could have fallen under the table. You know what I mean? I was so embarrassed. And so then when all of this happened yesterday, I said, well, sir, after 4.5 years, I'm going to rectify what happened. I'm going to bring wine to the dinner, and I'm going to bring a bottle of Kendall Jackson Reserve and a bottle of Trump Chardonnay Reserve. And so I had it all planned out, right? So today I go to get the bags to bring them in on, and they've got one with a California California map. It's so hilarious. I can't wait to. Now he's not going to know about this interview. Okay, we're not going to tell him, guys. And so there's going to be one bag that the California wine's going to be in, and then the other one just has arches of gold, and it's arches of gold all the way up. So I just thought that's the one we're going to put the Trump one in, so that I would be shocking him. And the woman said, "Why is this so particular?" So I told her this little story, and she goes, do you know that guy? Like, you know that guy in person? And I go, yeah. And she goes, I've been following him for a long time. I said, have you ever seen our interviews together? And she said, you guys have been together? And I said, yeah. I said, do you ever see Michael Jaco? And she goes, oh, I love Jaco. And she said, I watch him all the time. And I said, have you ever seen Juan and I on there together? Because we've been on interviews with him together. Oh my God, I have to go and look it up. Or can you send me the links? I'm so excited. And I said, well, we have a live interview tonight. She said, with Jaco himself? Now, seriously, you really know these guys? I said, yeah, I know these guys. You mean you've been in a room with them? I said, I've even been in a room with them. And that was last week. And she said, you're with them weekly? I said, no. I was just with them last week at an event in Vegas. And it was just, and so the guy behind, I said, sir, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to take up your time. And he goes, I wouldn't have missed this conversation for anything. He said, I know the same guys. And now I know more than I would have known if I hadn't come in when you were here. I'm like, what the heck? But they had not been as active watching interviews lately because they felt that things were kind of stalled out. I said, nothing has stalled. No. But people don't understand it's military, and military is not on the 11 news. And oh, I got to explain that. I'm from California, and News at 11 is where all the crazy stuff is revealed. So when crazy stuff happens to me, I go, thank God there's going to be no news about it at 11. And California is the only, I think the West Coast is the only place where the news doesn't come on till 11. Everything is 10 everywhere else, but it's 11 on the West Coast. And so I didn't even know that until recently. And so all of this, Jaco, the circle is getting smaller and smaller of getting us through with these people, because what are the chances that because of this experience here in Georgia, that these people in Georgia now are like, oh my God, well, then I've got to watch Jaco tonight. So they're probably both watching. I don't know, but I know the woman said she was going to be watching. So here we go. You know, I'm excited about where we are. I really am.
Yeah, very good. And it does seem like it's spreading, because we saw that event, and like you said, everyone at that event is super well informed. Mm-hmm. So another one coming up in September. That'll be good, because we should. Juan's doing a good thing. Is to continue with those events. I think it's going to be very helpful, to bring us together, because every one of those events I get great contacts. I met you finally in person, so these events are fantastic. We didn't get to talk, unfortunately, but that's kind of the way those events are sometimes. I was trying to absorb the information and then make contacts. Mm-hmm. Some people were there to make contacts only, and they went to the green room and hung out. For me, I'm in the mix. Yes, I'm that kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Now let's look at that other post that you have here. So a decade ago, Chief Pettit asked his wife and sister to travel with him to help alternate driving so he could be in Georgia within 24 hours of receiving the first book in my For the Sake of America 1-5 book series. And after declining all invitations to Georgia the prior 20 years, Chief Pettit is wearing a wampum belt, the original Bible. Wow. The simple message of the wampum belt is the same simple message I have often shared. So you have A equals truth and life, M, God's gift and gifts, unity, one faith. So that's beautiful. I never even knew that. That's incredible.
Well, and what's crazy is we forget that we're God's gift to this earth. We've been thinking we're here in a mess and nothing is good about it. But we're here as his special gift. And he gives us special gifts to help us make it here as it is in heaven. And that's what the Lord's Prayer to the Father is all about. And what was really crazy is he didn't have the other books in the series. So I gave him the other books in the series. And he goes, now that you have surprised me, I'm going to surprise you. this was his surprise to me, because he's heard me talk about all of this stuff about get tight with the Father. The only way through is tight with the Father. Yeah. And those white tiles from those descriptive items to unity, those white tiles only come from that area on what we see on the right side, his left hand side. And those white tiles are the only thing that go up around his shoulder and come down into heaven. The others are all blocked. And he said, that's how simple the message is with the Father. And they never had another Bible. And he was thanking the pilgrims for understanding, bringing the gospel. And then they had more to discuss because they've been gone since 612 BC. So when they came in 1620, they bring the gospels that they had never seen because they were just printed into English in 1500s, 1535 by Tyndale. And so they knew those stories because they lived with those people. And they have passed the truth on for 4,000 years. But this is how simple I've been trying to tell people it is. It's not the Sunday worship fellowship to all these other gods. We're doing pagan and Gentile worship. And so if we can share with as many people as possible, we've got the thing that's keeping us from uniting together is that there's now 4,200 religions in the world because every human interpretation becomes a new religion. And none of it is the truth with the Father. There's only truth in life or death. There's only good or evil. There's only two kingdoms. I've said this so many times. And when he made it that simple, oh, Jaco, I'm sitting there and I'm just blown away. I'm just blown away. And you would know a lot of the people in the audience because it came in from all over because everybody thought I was going to speak. I said, it's their First Nations event. You think I'm going to be speaking? But you're going to love this. Guess who the MC was?
Why?
Doug Billings, running for governor of Kansas because it was held in Kansas City. I hadn't seen Doug Billings since his event in June of 23. And as soon as I went home from his event back to Georgia, I was invited to San Diego. And that's the first time I met you in person was at Truth Tour.
Yeah, okay.
And Sharm ran out and got me. And she goes, there's space. You can come in and get a selfie with Jaco. I said, he wouldn't want a selfie with me. Oh, yeah. Come on in. So we have selfie photos from June of 23 Truth Tour. I went back to San Diego. They thought I was still there full time. So they thought I would just stop by, So.
Very nice. Very nice. Now we're in I think we're in biblical. I did a show yesterday with someone that's very biblical and spiritual. And I kind of like, let things come through. I didn't kind of let through. I just tapped in to God and just let him speak through me. And I believe that we're in biblical light versus dark. We've talked about that many times. And I said that we're moving, and this was early yesterday. I said we're moving into probably catastrophic events. And it will probably hit those areas that have problems. They're allowing negativity because, as we know, the election theft has to happen so that they can bring people in these positions of power, so they can allow all this other stuff to come through. And we've talked about it in both of these fraud events now. And that's very, very crucial for us to stop the bond fraud. Otherwise, the system is going to collapse. It's absolutely going to collapse. So I talked about, the earthquakes and so forth that are coming for these areas that are very corrupt. And then right after that, we had those two mega quakes in Venezuela. And we're talking about anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 people were killed. Then we had a big one, 6.9, I think, in Japan. They just recently had another 7.0. So this is leading us. And this usually when you have an earthquake, you have smaller earthquakes after that. The one that happened in Venezuela was a 7.1, followed by 7.5. That's wild. And on top of that, I haven't seen any aftershocks. Almost always after the earthquake, aftershocks, I don't see any aftershocks. So that's very suspect. And then we across the Pacific, it seems like there's some kind of device or something that's warming the water up. And Europe now is having record-breaking heat, and they're talking about we're going to have massive storms. There's already been 2 super typhoons that have spawned from all that hot water that's in the Pacific right now. So, you know, that's going to flip at some point, and we're going to get a lot of that coming into the U.S. So what are your thoughts on, you know, biblical times? I think we're in them, of course. You don't have to be a biblical scholar to see that things are happening because of consciousness. California, which I think is really going to get hit hard, and no one's standing up. No, they're allowing this theft, this corruption to continue. They have to get to the streets. They have to get in the streets. They have to protest. I don't see that coming in California.
It's not happened in 50 states. Nobody cleaned it up. Yeah. Nobody cleaned up the primaries. Nobody stopped the machines. Nobody stopped the early voting. Nobody stopped the same-day ballots. Nobody stopped. Nobody is following what the president told them they had to do in these elections. And I'm going to send you that link for that interview yesterday, because this is the first time I've heard Juan discuss about a potential pause of all of it, because you cannot move into a general election timeframe when the primaries are this corrupted.
Yeah.
When your candidates are not the right candidates. And he even mentioned a very unique phrase about it of, what if we allow all these candidates to really look at if they really want their names on the ballot, if they really want to put themselves, because those that didn't even qualify are committing crimes.
Good point.
Those that, yeah, we've talked about this. I mean, when it was the first time that anyone had gone through the whole thing with me, where all these past presidents, they didn't even qualify.
Yeah.
I mean, Bush isn't even their name, and they don't even qualify because their parents are not natural born. And I don't know, we have not talked about it since. Did you know that AI changed the wording? AI changed the wording of the definition of the term of what Sheila Holm said in that interview, in our interview, because I haven't had an interview like what we did. And we went through, remember, we went top to bottom and explained the whole thing, that all these guys have been illegal. They shouldn't have even had their names on the ballot. Right. They shouldn't have had the opportunity to run for president. All of this was wrong. And so now what AI was saying is that I was wrong, that all you have to do is be born in America. And Rubio was, and they used Rubio as an example because everybody was mad at me because they wanted Rubio to be the next president. I said, he can be that in Cuba.
Right.
Because his family's from Cuba, but he cannot be the American president. And people say, well, you know, I can't wait until, you know, Barron, and that isn't going to work either. Both of your parents have to be American born. You can be in Senate, you can be in Congress, you can be in House and Senate. You can do all these other things. You can be all these other positions and all these different, because the problem we have, and that's in that first paragraph of that power to forgive prayer, they notice the same thing, because it's the government, the church, and the educational system.
Yep.
And when you take control of those and you decide, and the same people are running the show in all three, really? There's nobody else? Because people have teased me about putting that Titus 1 in the new book, because you have to have 2 elders who cannot be grifted or grift or be out of integrity or deceive the people. But the Takai, remember when we covered Islamic and we covered the term from the president that was so fun about the Strait of Hormuz? Is it the word Takai, were the Islamic deception?
Yeah.
That term is no different for the secret societies. And when they run your courts, they'll lie amongst each other and to each other.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll lose, because that's who they are for each other. And that all of this is against the principles of this nation. And that's why when Jefferson said, once the injustices, once the corruption is so deep that you've lost your original intent to even be a country, to be a republic, You can't fix it. You can't remove an evil and put another evil in, or put another something else in. You cannot do that. So this is what Juan was mentioning yesterday. And the first time I heard him say this is that he said there may have to be a pause. I don't know if it'll be a year and a half. And he said it may have to happen by September or October. And then he actually, and he's never, I've always talked about the republic structure. The republic structure, we vote in the spring. The republic structure is a fresh start. The republic structure is when you vote somebody in to be president, they don't wait 3.5 months to let somebody ruin everything that they can ruin before you come in.
Exactly.
In January, you know what I mean? And he mentioned this, and I had forgotten all about this spectacular comment, the term slaughterhouse. Did you know that that's the date of the Tuesday in November after the full moon, he was describing the whole thing, and I'm like, what the heck? But the whole corporation was set up corrupt, okay? But our whole church structure is corrupt. And guys, stand with me, because we can't let the president think that we're going to fight against the church because the church backed the president. The church didn't back the president. Believers backed the president. The church, I'll give you an example. Atlanta, Georgia. There's a tabernacle in Atlanta, Georgia, and the people wanted a speaker. So the speaker said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go to your pastor and have your pastor call me? So the pastor called and said, hey, we really want you to speak. So the speaker said, why don't you go to your board of directors, trustee board? You have a board, a council, something? Yeah, we got a trustee board. Okay. So, okay, guess what they are? A trustee board. You have a trustee board when you have a government structure, corporate structure in your church. And people don't understand. None of you are going to own any of these churches because 501c3 means they're state-owned. And that's why everything now is being evaluated with Daystar, because that wasn't their personal property. They were a 501c3. And when you're a 501c3, the state owns your business. So what's happened is these churches are all owned. So the pastor goes and talks to his board, calls back the next day and says, I had no idea that all of my board are 33rd degree Masons. He had no idea. Wow. From the very, very beginning. Right. If you want to be a pastor in this town, you got to be a Mason. You want to be a butcher in this town, you want to be a banker in this town, you want to be an attorney in this town, you want to be the judge in this county, you got to be a Mason. Because they got to get you in to get you controlled in order to, and that's exactly what we said about Charles Joseph Bonaparte, is that he's got a merit-based system that you must meet in order to become a candidate. And only 4 candidates will any of the people ever vote on. So you think you got all these candidates on your ballot, you think you're voting on all of these things, but when it comes down to it, only 4 people in your entire community are people that you actually did vote for. So the whole thing has been set up as a municipality by Charles Joseph Bonaparte. The whole thing is structured. So if we look at that structure, and the reason why is we're Gentile and pagan worship with the Constantine Church. And people are shocked, like, well, how could secret society members be in there? They're all taking the same oaths to the same dead gods and entities, guys. They're all in the club, and you're participating with people in the club because those feasts and festivals are not the Lord's. I've told you guys, Leviticus 23. There's a really precious document, and I just got the new ones in the mail today. Now I've got them till 31. I only had them till 26. And all of the feasts and festivals of the Lord, and yet they call them Jewish feasts and festivals. They're biblical festivals on the cover, but the feasts and festivals go all the way now to 31. And we're not even touching on that. So if you want God to tell you, yeah, come on into heaven because I know you, or do you want him to say, you did a bunch of things, I guess, but I never knew you? And that's what he can say to all of us. I was one of them, guys. I was a pew warmer. I did everything the church wanted me to do. And when I needed help, when I went through the hell with the FBI and the judges and the court system and everything else, everybody in the church spoke against me. I'd stay away from her. You're going to have the FBI at your door. I did, all this kind of stuff. And so all of this I've had to learn. And when fathers showed me that when they get upset with me, I said, they don't understand me. They don't understand what I'm saying. It's like they're disrespecting what I'm trying to say, because they act like they get it and then they don't get it. And he said, nobody has ever disrespected or rejected you. I'm like, you're in the same room with me. And he said, I'm in you. They're rejecting me. And I'll never forget the feeling I had in hearing that, because I'm okay. If you want to get mad at me, but don't put something between you and the Father, because I want your soul to be whole. And so with all of this, like you said today, we're always talking about the dark versus light, and we cannot go into a general election, because that's what was wrong with Bolsonaro in Brazil that we saw the film about, and Seoul, Korea did the same thing. They knew they were going down a slippery slope, and they went forward with that election anyway, and now they're a communist nation again.
Yeah.
They're not free. They're the same as North Korea. So
we're getting that in New York, and I guess they just had all these candidates that are communist. Didn't we fight against communism? And we're we would never let communism in, and now it's just like they're all over the place. Seattle, New York City, mayors, and probably one in LA here pretty soon. It's deteriorating. So I agree with you.
Should we go into her background? Should we talk about Karen Bass?
Oh,
1980s, blew up our Capitol in DC, and now she wasn't getting any votes, and then they do this,
Yeah. She went to Havana, I don't know, like dozens of times, something crazy. And then, of course, she was in Africa when New Guinea or something like that, when the fires were happening. And that's a pattern, because we saw the same thing. Lahaina, the mayor of Lahaina was in Oahu, I think, meeting with the governor, and then his town burned down. So they repeat these patterns. We can see their works, and it's very easy, but it's very hard for people to comprehend that people would actually do that. It's so evil. There's no way that someone can be that evil. Oh, they're evil, and they're beyond belief evil as well. And that's one of the problems that I have for California, because they're allowing children to be trafficked there on a massive scale. You stay in California and you do nothing, then you're supporting all of that, right? So I left California, right? I love California, but I'm not going to support that anymore. My taxes and everything go to pay for all that. No, it's not going to happen. So so I'm on the outside trying to help Californians wake up, and they're not open to that. They attack me when I tell them, you guys need to work. We know that there's problems here. Well, do something about it. Don't just argue with me about it.
Well, and I'm pulling up 3 symbols right now that are not in the book, but they're real similar to the student unrest and to our unions. This is how they've taken us. We don't realize the connection. And all of these are in the Chicago area.
Wow.
All 3 of these: the education system, the teachers union, do you see the symbol? Do you see the symbol? Do you see? BLM was the black fist. Communism is the red fist. See the pencils in the fist for the teachers union? So it's not just the teachers associations, it's the education associations. The last one had connection with AFL-CIO, all the unions. It's how to control the people to get most of the people thinking the same thing, and all of it's a departing from the truth. They're not going to tell you the truth. They don't have a great future for you. They don't have a hope in a future. It's control and manipulation and deceiving and grifting, the whole thing. You guys, you were there, weren't you, on the school bonds? I think this is a good point to talk about the school bonds. That we understood in California And here's a funny part. Do you know, I think I'm the only person that ever talks about the Constitution in California. And people who are trying to change California haven't even read the Constitution of California. Did you know in the Constitution you cannot have a lottery? And they put lottery on the ballot like 5 elections in a row. And finally it just said it went through because it went through to pay for what? Education. You can't do a lottery in California because guess why? It's against the Constitution of California to establish a lottery in the borders of California. And so they did this. And then guess what they did? They started getting rid of all the regular schools. They built new schools, and there's no English-speaking students in the new schools. They're all these, they're not like ship containers, but they're very modern looking schools. And they popped them up. And there's no parents or grandparents that can speak English to help these students. So then they didn't keep any English speaking teachers. Do you see some transition things that happened with the union that we weren't even watching? And when I saw this happening and friends whose daughters became teachers couldn't stay in California to be teachers, do you see where this goes? And then all the control and everybody's speaking whatever language, and there you go. So the lottery never helped retain anything about the schools in California. Never has. No. And it's still going on. Lottery's still going on in California.
Yeah, and where's all that money going? So you have the school bonds, which are out of control in California, the property tax out of control, in a lot of states, and in Texas. We might be able to get some resolution in Texas. We're hoping to. So we'll see what happens. If we get one of them to fall, then it's going to be they're all going to fall. It'll be once we get resolution in one of them, then everything is done. We have a format that we can use every single state. It works somewhere. It's going to work everywhere. So this is what we're moving towards. So I think, and it's coming from grassroots, like we're talking about. It's just, several hundred people. It was like 150 of us, I think, in the first one. And this one had like 700, 800. So it's growing. So you're getting more people that are getting involved, more people that are talking about it, more people that are sharing it. And it makes a difference. So Mitch Wexler was on stage talking about that. And we had a gentleman that was talking about the California school bonds. I've seen him several times. He's outstanding. So Mitch Wexler is basically saying that it's going to court. I think might be this week or next week. I think he's got a sore throat. He's supposed to be on my show. There's a lot of people that had some issues from that show. So it's, those shows are very suspect. You got to be very careful at those shows. We had great security, but still, the directed energy weapons, like, you've talked about being used against you. I've had them used against me. So you have to be, super careful at these events, protect yourself. So
did you hear what happened to me after the event?
No.
I was taking off for Tulsa because there was a reunion of the Reawaken tour. And I thought, well, that's, like a halfway back. And so I may not be able to get there on the 18th, but the main days, it was meet and greet the night of the 18th. And then 19 and 20 was the event. And I just made it to Flagstaff to a gas station. I was in the gas station for 2 hours because I couldn't function. You didn't hear about this?
No. Wow.
Major heat stroke. And I had to spend 2 days in Flagstaff. I couldn't function at all.
Oh. Wow.
So, but I'm taking ivermectin and I pushed through. It was one of the toughest, worst drives back possible because after 2 days of not being able to function, still today, I'm not hungry. And that's what you have to be careful of, guys. This is exactly what happened when I was targeted at Lynn Woods. You're not hungry because you're losing your oxygen. And then it gets so low that your brain function is completely gone. And it took 12 days. And we were all at the same event, so we watched it all follow through. So I'm hearing a lot of that, of people who, because that's what it is, coughing. I've had a lot of coughing, sore throat, exact same way it started back in 21 at that event. Yeah. So, because we're trying to be careful with each other. We had amazing security absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
But here's another thing Juan mentioned yesterday is that for September, you know, they have that huge area right in the middle that we couldn't have any seating or anything.
Yeah.
He's gonna remove it. Ahern's gonna remove it to
Oh,
make
good.
it a more conference center kind of opportunity. I don't know what he's going to do with the cages in the back. Did you see the casino cages? They're empty. And that people said, well, why was this on? I said, picture that in the center. Okay. It wasn't a big bar in its day. And then you have the game tables around it. Have you not been in a casino? I mean, I was just trying to explain to him, but he said there's going to be a lot of changes and all of that straightened out. But I really feel that we're going to know a lot more by September. They're trying to do a Sedona, Arizona event in October. And I don't know how that one's going to go because I don't know if people are going to keep traveling to these. I don't know because I was hearing there was a lot of concern about all of the travel because it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it really appears that they're going to have to put a pause on the elections because people are not understanding the criminality levels of what happened in our primaries.
I totally agree with that. I think, and when I was talking yesterday, when I was channeling, it's like I got that it was going to be stolen again. Mm-hmm. So if we know that it's absolutely going to be stolen because, like Juan and you and I have been talking about, we're getting down to the wire, and there's like you said, there's a lot of very fishy candidates that have been moved into position for elections. We can't have that. Craig Abbott, he should not be the governor.
No. But do you see the numbers? The numbers that they gave Pete Chambers, who was over the National Guard, who was over the State Guard, who was over the Texas Rangers, who's done all this research, who's been around this state. Everybody's been putting the word out about him. Okay. He gets 11% and Abbott gets 80%. But think back on Georgia. Georgia in the last election, Kemp never got votes. Nobody wanted anything to do with Kemp. Kemp wasn't going to run because the boyfriend of his daughter was killed in that Mercedes and he drives a Jeep, and he was given that car to take to that event, okay, in Pooler. And it already had.
I just heard that he was like taken out.
He was. The explosion was so intense that an 18-wheeler went through the tires. I mean, the intensity of the explosion.
That was intended for Kemp, huh?
That was for Kemp's daughter's fiance.
Right.
Was given this Mercedes to drive down there, and it was set up as an explosive vehicle.
Yeah. It
was set up to be exploded at that location. It was all pre-planned. And so that was the warning to Kemp But the woman who was running, she got the 77%, he got 7%, and it all flipped overnight, where he got the 77 and she got the 7. And there's no way. He wasn't even really effectively running. And then when that happened, all of a sudden he's back in the race and winning. So we've already been there, done that. Do you know what I mean? Now here's the difference. And this is what that thing was about talking about, here's Jaco and Sheila and they're talking about insurrection and sedition. And guys, please look up the definitions. Please look up the definitions, because anything that you're doing that can alter an election, anything you're doing that's altering financial structure, that's stealing. And this is what Kash Patel is using these words all the time. They stole from the seniors. They stole from children in need. They stole because when you do that, when you're countering a program that's in place and you feel you have authority to do that, you're coming against a government structure. And when you're coming against a government structure, you're committing insurrection, you're committing sedition, you're trying to run it your way as though you're in charge of the government, which is the same as setting up a republic and saying you've re-inhabited the state of California, or you've re-inhabited Arizona, or you now are an interim governor in Georgia because you met in somebody's dining room with 12 other people and now you've re-inhabited the positions in the state. No one has the authority to do that till you have 66+%. You have to have 2/3 majority in any state to say you've got those positions, and there's no 2/3 majority in a lot of these primaries to even have these positions. I mean, 61 people running for governor in California, and they said, well, it was just kind of a jungle process. That process isn't even a lawful process to end up that way at a primary. I mean, there aren't that many categories or that many parties or that many. It was absolute craziness. So what we're finding is that we're tracking who's doing the insurrection and the sedition. Because once you do insurrection and sedition, and we've told you, and these people have been, were warned in 22, in 24, we're now in 26. Nobody was listening. Nobody in the states cleaned anything up. Nobody got their constitutions ratified. Nobody's getting ready to clean any of this up. So that's why I think the button has to be paused. And I've said for a long time, you cannot have an election in 2026 when it's fraudulent before it's even in process. The candidates in the primary are not the candidates that need to be on the ballot for the general election. And the citizens know it. And so once you commit those crimes and you're notified, what's the difference with treason? One word: knowingly.
Yeah. So there was a video I just recently watched. This is Larry Johnson, former CIA. He's been to Russia quite a lot. He was a analyst in the CIA, so I love the analysts. They were like, they did such great work. I've listened to him for quite some time. Not a big fan of Trump. That's okay. There's some people out there that are like that, but he is delivering really good information. And I got the same thing that he got very like weeks ago, that Iran has the nuke already. That's been shared from Pakistan. So Pakistan has basically passed on that Iran is going to do a test of their underground nuke on July 1st or thereabouts. So that really changes things. So we have to be aware. We were trying to stop Iran from getting the nuke, but if they have it, that's maybe that's why we backed off. I don't know. I don't understand why we didn't just go and just annihilate them. What are your thoughts?
We're right at that point.
Yeah.
He's giving them a chance. Now, I heard there was an attack in one of the regular cities that gets attacked. I heard there was an attack. Was it in Israel? Was it against Beirut?
It could be Israel went into Lebanon again. I think that's probably what happened. And that's, of course, Iran doesn't like that because, they've spent so much money, building up Hezbollah. And, Hezbollah has killed a lot of American servicemen. So they need to be decimated, right? And the Roman term, decimation, is basically where you come in and you completely obliterate the enemy.
Well, that's where President Trump is at. They've got one chance and it's over. And the hit was done by Iran, but he said there were no injuries, there was no there was no damage, there was no so they did what they did, but it had of no consequence. And he said, but that's it. If there is any attempt to do any of this, it's over. Yeah. He made it very clear. And that was just within the last 48 hours. I'd have to go look it up. I thought I sent it out on Twitter, but I'll have to go back and look it up. I haven't quite been myself since that crazy sunstroke or heat stroke. It hit me by surprise because, guys, Flagstaff isn't even 4 hours from I was loaded and gone, and it's not even 4 hours. I can always get to Amarillo. How can I not get to Tulsa, Oklahoma? It's a shock. So yeah, we're looking at it. We're looking at it as to what the effects are on all of this. But But I'll look that up, Jaco, because I owe you that. Because now that I've brought it up into the space, I want to make sure I'm sharing it clearly, because Trump he's done with all this. They've given it everything. They've had their best bet. They've had their best opportunity. They say that the people are fine and that the people want what is going on, because he's not trying to dictate and decide what goes on over there. He just wanted to make sure they would stop killing believers. And so, because they won't arm themselves, because to them, they're making their own statement and they're not trying to turn it into a war on their land. But they've said, come and blow it all up if you have to, because they're willing to start over.
Awesome. So we'll since you're got a little bit of cough, I've had a little bit of cough several months ago after an event too. So I mean, they're constantly coming after us in different ways. So prayers that you're going to heal fast, and prayers from the audience that you're going to heal fast. His Best is your website?
Hisbest.org.
Hisbest.org. Okay, very good. So we encourage everybody to go over there and look at Sheila's work. She's got this great new book. You want to have it in your library. So it's definitely a challenging time, but as long as we're staying informed, as long as we're sharing information, I think we're going to be okay in the long run. But yeah, there's definitely challenges like you mentioned.
Well, and do people really want it done quickly if it's this bad? If it's this bad that they're still doing this, not following anything they were asked to do we want it to be what? I mean, what would that even look like if we just put things forward today? Yeah. I think we have to be realistic with each other, that I'd rather have it all cleared up, because it's going to take decades for us to clear all the horrific stuff up, because it's permeated everywhere in our country. These are just a few interviews by topic. I did them like all the Georgia Guidestones ones together, the Christmas ones together. Yeah. And this Faith and Soldier Monument. And I haven't put the eclipses and stuff on there because we're going to be modernizing the site. And because this wasn't working, it keeps moving different directions, and they're not in, because people know it was Guidestones, and then it was the monuments, and then it was, I mean, people know that, but people who are just getting to know me, I was trying to put them out so they could see them, and they just all keep moving, and we've tried to stop the scroll process of messing it up, but I would so appreciate the prayers. The letter I'm doing now is, we've got to all come together in faith. And I'm not trying to tell people how to believe, and I'm not trying to tell people who to have faith in, but there's only life or death, and there's only evil or good. And if we don't do what the Pilgrims brought, because guys, if they would have done it, it was 500 years so that no generation of our children would ever be pulled into this again. Because they knew all of this. They lived all of this. Their generations knew every single part of what's happening to us right now. The Civil War soldiers knew. That's why they fought so hard. Over 700,000 believing men died trying to hold on to that truth. So, and then it went right back with President Ulysses S. Grant. Everybody had faith in him because of being so amazing, But Michael, I just appreciate this so much. I don't have anybody where we can just toss around subjects, and we can float through so many subjects, and we can discuss it all, because the depth that we can go and the information that we can share when we come together, I am just so honored to be with you. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm sorry we didn't even get the chance to break bread together while we were in Vegas. But
no,
yeah.
So
that has to change next time. It's got to change, because there's a place I want to take you, and it'll be really fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. We'll have to plan it, definitely.
Yeah.
So I like breaking bread with friends. It's always fun. It's good conversation and relaxing, and it's fantastic. So yeah, that'll be good. So thanks so much, Sheila. And it's great to have you on again. It's always amazing. you just go down such great rabbit holes and bring out such great information. It's not scary when they're not scary rabbit holes when you come on. So thank you.
There's answers to all of this. You know what I mean? But I know where people are at. People think, oh, you know, if I could just think like Sheila does. This didn't happen in my early years. I wouldn't have wanted to work for me in my early years because I was the only woman on staff and I had to keep proving myself. And I wasn't gentle at all because I had to keep proving to stay on corporate staff. And so I've learned a lot, and I just can't stop sharing it because now that I know the truth, there's no other option. There's no other option. I've been brought through horrific stuff where the agents just wanted to know, how come we just want to know, how are you doing all this and not committing suicide? And I'm like, God is bringing me through. And, but I said, I don't know how many more are left in the we, you know, because you have to retire as an agent at 53. And the judges and et cetera, those guys are so old now that majority of them, if not all of them, are all dead. So who is left that keeps erasing me from the entire system? They won't tell me who, and they won't tell me why, and they won't say how it's done. But according to experts, it takes a lot to remove an American from absolutely every part of the system because we are just they've got us totally hammered into everything in the system. So you can't just disappear from the system, and yet they've erased me twice already. So. Crazy. I just thank you, Michael. This is every time I'm with you. It's good for me. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? I hope everybody else likes it too, but it's really good. And everybody loves how we banter back and forth. I just really, really appreciate your depth and you just make it very, very interesting for me. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everybody. And I hope you enjoyed it. I know you did because we got the great comments in there and great views. So look forward to doing this again in the future. Thanks, Sheila.
Bless you guys.
Bless you.